tower defense went from a catchphrase to a genre in what seemed like no time at all. The first Anomaly stood out in 2011 for deconstructing the elements of tower defense and composing them in a faster-paced strategy game that occasionally required twitch reflexes. Anomaly 2 continues to build upon this formula in smart ways, increasing the skill, graphical power, and strategies involved. Anomaly 2 dedicates more time to story, but it hardly feels like time well spent. The story takes place nearly 2 decades after the first game's alien robot invasion. The so-called Anomaly have taken over Earth, and in a last-ditch effort to save the planet, you lead a commander on a mission to require a machine that could turn the tides of war. Each mission adds on one more excuse to prolong using the device, as you seek out scientists to operate it, or an antenna in Rio that will help prepare its use. The voice acting from the lead commander is laughably bad, while the rest is cheesy but not cheesy enough to be memorable in a fun way. While the dialogue is rote, the occasional mid-mission story event and narrative-driven missions add some variety and surprise that was missing from the first Anomaly's campaign. To compare, Anomaly's mix of strategy and fast-paced action as reverse tower defense doesn't properly explain just how unique the game is. It's true that the player essentially controls what would be the creeps in a tower defense game, as you buy units, route them down branching paths, and protect them with buffs with the on-ground commander you directly control. But in action, Anomaly quickly bounces back between contemplative strategy and arcade-like action as you frantically run across a map applying abilities that heal your units and damage enemy towers. Anomaly 2 builds upon this framework by refining the first game and introducing alternative forms for each unit. For example, the rudimentary assault unit can now morph into a mech with flamethrowers that is better equipped for short-range combat in tight corners. Anomaly 2 also adds in multiplayer, which lets one player control the towers and the other player control a mobile squad. But with 5 maps, a steep learning curve, and a questionable balancing between teams, it feels like an experiment more than anything. Anomaly 2 really steps up in the visuals, offering detailed landscapes and units. Each level feels unique, as your squad goes from Rio's thick jungles to the frozen tundra of Antarctica. The visual effects and scenarios that occur during missions break up the action nicely, while the cutscenes between missions further develop the world and characters, even if the accompanying story isn't all that memorable. The voice acting of Anomaly 2 can be atrocious at times, but the game otherwise offers a solid package in the audio department, with atmospheric music, audio feedback that feels good in combat, and appropriately dense and foreboding sound to accompany the alien machine's tremors below ground. For as much distance the player keeps from the ground, Anomaly 2's sound does a good job of making the player feel closer to the action. Anomaly 2 evolves the addicting formula of the first, while improving the production values to a great effect. It doesn't fix all of the original's problems, and not all of its additions pan out, but Anomaly 2 continues to offer the same unique mix of strategy and action that hooked many in the original. Now let's hope it comes to phones and tablets where the controls and mission structure feels even more natural. For more information on the game, read my review at Destructoid.com.